Typically, how people think about it and how scholars have thought about it is that a neighborhood is about similarity. If we look at a neighborhood, the people are similar to one another. Hi, I'm John Hipp. I'm a professor in the Department of Criminology, Law and Society here at UC Irvine in the School of Social Ecology. My research, I focus on neighborhoods and how neighborhoods change over time. One thing I look at in neighborhoods is the amount of crime in them. It's an undesirable characteristic for most. A challenge with that research, of course, is trying to define what a neighborhood is. Some people don't like the idea that we have definitions of neighborhoods, these units that you can see on a map, and some people have said, well, that's not really very accurate. We can't just focus on neighborhoods, that neighborhoods aren't these urban islands, but in fact what's going on around the neighborhoods matters as well. A graduate student and I came up with a paper that we proposed a new way to measure neighborhoods. We called it egohoods. In our view, people don't spend all their lives within some very specific neighborhood, but in fact everyone has their own idea of what their neighborhood is. We took the street block as the center of it, and then we said, okay, there's some buffer around that street block, and that's a question, how big that should be. Should it be a quarter mile, half mile? And then we're going to say that's an egohood. Our model was able to much better predict where crime happened than other models using these more traditional measures of neighborhoods. We found that the relationship between the amount of inequality in a neighborhood and the amount of crime was actually very, very strong. Besides the fact that we're able to predict crime better, we find that this tends to map on better, we believe, to the social reality, that this is how people live their lives. They don't just live in a specific neighborhood, but they tend to enact their lives in a kind of a spatial pattern. Another implication of this was that while you're in your own egohood, you're also in lots of other people's egohoods. I also co-direct the Irvine Lab for the Study of Space and Crime with fellow professor Charis Kubrin. Our lab is focused on the spatial distribution of crime, and we recently received funding from the National Institute of Justice to try to understand where crime happens. We've developed this model where we're trying to predict crime that happens within 4-hour time chunks throughout the entire year. We're hoping to share this model with some of the local police agencies. We're hoping to get feedback from them on ways we might improve the model. But then the goal is that some of these agencies might be able to use this model as a way to decide how to allocate resources. One part of my research is I'm actually the director of the Metropolitan Futures Initiative here in the School of Social Ecology. And the goal of the MFI is to try to understand how all of the neighborhoods within this larger region will change over time. But then we try to present these results to both to the general public, because we want people to understand some of these results that we're finding. But we also present these findings to policymakers who might be able to take this information and do something with it. I want to understand better how the social world works. That's of key interest to me. The better we can understand how the social world works, the better we can try to improve, have different policies that make for more equitable outcomes.